Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. That's a saying that stuck with me for a long time. The importance of community cannot be overstated. In fact, there's an 80-year study done by Harvard where they looked at people from all different backgrounds and beliefs, and they found that the number one predictor of happiness in their lives was strong social connections. The people that you surround yourself with and the depths of those relationships have a lasting impact on your life. And it's not just our connection with others, it directly influences how we connect with ourselves and with the natural world around us. Today I'm sitting down with my good friend Chance Burles. After suffering both physical and psychological trauma from an IED explosion that occurred underneath his vehicle, he's been on a long road to recovery. In our conversation, Chance shares how becoming more mindful of his mental and emotional state has not only just helped him heal, but it's helped him connect with nature and be a more successful hunter. He talks about how being truly present and in tune with your surroundings can have a direct impact on the animals around you. It's a fascinating insight on how your energy and your emotions can have an influence on your natural world. If you enjoy what you hear today, you've got to check out The Collective. It's a podcast that Chance co-founded with Sean Taylor. And I should probably refine that a little bit because it's not just a podcast. It's a place where hard-charging men and women will come together to tackle big issues and try to better themselves and those around them. I've put a link in the bio for you to check that one out. If you want to deepen your connection with nature and build your skills in the outdoors, make sure to check out the Silvercore Club. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the podcast. Today's guest is an ex-combat engineer who has dedicated his post-military career to supporting fellow veterans through the power of shared experience and storytelling. Alongside former JTF-2 sniper Sean Taylor, he embarked on an ambitious mission to produce one high-quality podcast every single day for an entire year, featuring dynamic and driven professionals. Together, they aim to inspire, inform, and ignite the spirit of perseverance and success in the veteran community and beyond. Welcome to the Silvercore Podcast, Chance Burles.
My pleasure being here. That's a beautiful intro. I really like that. Again, I might have to steal it from you.
Well, I'm not going to lie. AI did help a little bit on that one. I typed it up, got it looking how I wanted, and then pumped it into AI. I said, can you make these sound better?
That's the beautiful part about AI. I've used it a few times now for the collective, and it really helps just, crystallize some of the words you want to use. And it has a much larger vocabulary range than most people do. So you get that, it uses words like bombastic and things like that. You're just like, all right, cool. If it makes me sound better, I'm down with it.
Bombastic, yeah. I think it was Scrooge McDuck who, that was the first time I heard about that one. I think it was bombastium was the element that he created and was like ice cream of like any different flavor that he could use it for. Bombastic, yes.
Bringing it back to the 80s cartoons, I love it.
Oh, this was the comic books. Like,
even older. Boom. I love it.
You've made the road trip all the way down to beautiful British Columbia, and I'm betting can't wait to leave.
100%. Yeah.
Get out of the city.
Super excited to get out of here, but we got another few days, so we got some more people I got to link up with, and the family and I are going to go do some really cool things. Like we're going to go see the Anthropology Museum at UBC. It's supposed to be really cool. We're going to hit Fort Stanley as well. It's supposed to be really cool as well. We're really just here as a exploration more than anything. And
and you're just exploring why you don't live in the big city.
100%. Yep. This is exactly why. It's as soon as we hit BC, everything kind of changed. The drivers changed, the way the roads work changed, how people interact with you changes, and then as soon as you hit the city, everything changes from there too. We got past Chilliwack, and then we spent an hour and a half of traffic on the one just coming into the city, and we're like, "This is awesome."
I just got back from Nova Scotia, spent a couple weeks over there, was in Toronto, and then back to BC. And I tell you, it's even in the big smoke of Nova Scotia, it's a lot more laid back than what it's like over here, and it's got me wondering why I live in the Lower Mainland.
It's beautiful. It's low maintenance in general. I think like weather-wise and stuff, which is why I think a lot of people are drawn here. But my wife and I were chatting about it too when we were down at the beach, and I was looking around. I'm like, man, nobody seems to care about anybody else at all. Everyone's in their own little world, doing their own little thing, without any regard for, other people's space or time, or like it just. I saw, I don't know how many near misses with bicycles, and people just like shrug it off, like, yeah, whatever, and like off they go.
I read, and I'm just playing around with our audio a little bit as we're talking here, but I read a study about road rage. And it said that it is directly correlated to the size of the city or town that you live in. And over a certain size, you what's the word? You depersonalize.
100% dehumanize.
Dehumanize. Basically, instead of, oh, that's Gladys driving down, she's probably sleeping, or maybe she's had a couple of drinks, or whatever it is, right? It's, why did that person do that to me?
Yeah.
Completely different person. I'm going to get him back. I'm going to run him over. They must have done that to me on purpose.
100%. And it's self-centric as well. I mean, when you think about the larger city that you're in, the more the population increases, the less community you have, the less people you actually know. And so then therefore your mind becomes that much more closed to yourself. So
right.
Then it becomes, well, that guy obviously did it to me. How dare that person, whoever they are, versus, when I'm driving around Sherwood Park, it's a pretty small town. It's a pretty relaxed atmosphere. That's why we moved there. Everything is within walking distance. We wave at people. I know my neighbors. I have a community. And, even people I don't know, when I was doing the Nijmegen March a little while ago, I was walking around, and people would be like, I saw you this morning with your pack on. You're still walking that thing? And I'm like, yep, yeah. And they're like, well, what do you do? And like engage in a conversation immediately.
It's funny you bring up community, because that's something that's that I think a lot of people can really benefit from. Mm-hmm. And whether they live in a very remote area and they don't really have much of a community around them, or quite often what I find, they live in a very built-up area and it's difficult to find your people.
Yes.
It's difficult to find that community of people that are there to help you, to help support you, that want to see nothing from you other than for you to be the best that you can be. Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the collective.
100%. Yeah.
Tell me about the collective.
Oh man, the collective has been it's been a passion project, but it's also been it's a massive stress factor in my life at the same time. So Sean came to me November, December, 2022.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been looking at the veteran community. We need to do something. Are you in? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm absolutely. I've been an advocate for years. I'm doing my own podcast. Yeah, how can I help? What's the plan? And he goes, well, I'm going to push a pace that you're not quite used to. And, are you good to keep up? I said, well, I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Let's get after it. And so he's like, okay, well, we're going to do a podcast a day for the whole year. And I was, having done many podcasts, I was like, well, how? Like, what are we to talk about? What do we? And he's like, we'll figure it out. So we started January 1, and first guest we had on was you, and it was
right. That's right.
You were the man right off the bat, and it became what it is, in my belief, through you initially, because right after that conversation, you engaged us and said, well, what is the value? What is it that you're trying to provide to the world with it? And I had to stop and think about it, and Sean and I thought about it for a little while, and eventually we came to the fact that it is about the community. It's about bringing people together to a central location where we can all discuss, we can talk, we can engage, we can think, we can develop ideas, we can throw stuff off of each other. All of these great things that most people don't have. They don't have an opportunity to do that.
Right.
Especially with the caliber of people that we knew. And then it kind of blossomed from there. And the community just built itself. Like I would ask on a regular basis, I've asked you a couple times, who do you think would be good for the show? And I think you've asked me, and many other people have asked me too, would be, well, what are you looking for? And I'm like, are they cool? Can they hold a conversation?
Yeah. Yeah, those are two very different things too, right? You can have the coolest people out there that are just doing their thing.
Yeah.
But they have a difficult time when the microphone's in front of them.
Yes.
So finding that special person who can relay that is, and that's a learned skill, because I would say I am that former person. Mm-hmm. I am the person who has a difficult time when the microphone's in front. And I swear to God, every single time, the best conversation happens before we press record and after we press record. The conversation that you and I had before we pressed record, I think a lot of people could get a ton of value out of, but I'm not at that point yet.
Well, and we're going to get there. Don't worry. I took some notes, so we're going to get back to it. And I think this comes from the fact that, you know, it's hard to be natural when you have unnatural things in front of you. Mm. Right? The microphone wasn't pointed at me when we were talking. It wasn't pointed at you. It was still in the room. And we weren't all mic'd up. We didn't have the headset on and stuff, but it was just a natural conversation. We started talking about this, and then I brought up that, and then you brought up this, and then it created its own direction. Mm-hmm. And we weren't trying to control it, but the moment you put something unnatural in front of you, then there's a level of control, I think, in our own minds that we have to we try to the audio, and then you start processing things all at once, and then it becomes very difficult to find that natural flow, which is reps.
If it wasn't so highly unethical, pressing record and then afterwards saying, okay, everyone, let's sign off on here. Yep. You happy with what we said? Blah, blah, blah. If you don't, we can nix it.
Yeah.
That would make for a pretty interesting show, because the amount of, every single time I have a conversation with somebody on the Silvercore podcast, and even on the collective.
Yeah.
When we wrap up,
the green room is killer, man. It's killer.
that's when stories start flying. Yeah. Got SAS, SBS, Special Forces folks just telling stories that would just light up the internet if they were able to go out.
I think that's part of it too, is the awareness of the fact that you are being recorded, right? And it is this is going to go out to the world. So there's, for many people, and I know from the many podcasts I've done now, there's a level of reservation.
Sure.
Whenever there's a recording happening. And I made it my personal mission to completely remove that. I just, didn't matter what, I'm open to talking about it. Hit me, whatever you got.
But do you want that removed?
I do. Yeah, I think that is I think it's a key proponent in being able to build a community of people that truly benefit you. Because if you are holding something back, if you're not 100% honest with the people that you have in your circle, how are you 100% honest with yourself?
I think there's a difference between being 100% honest with the people in your circle and airing everything for the internet, everything for people to hear, because 100% honest with the people in your circle, give them everything you have, give them 110, expect 40%, because guaranteed they'll feel like they're giving 110. It's from your own personal perspective. It always feels like you're giving more.
Yeah.
But do you want, and that's the difficult part, would I show my kids through social media? No, I'm not going to share that part. There's parts of my life that I'm going to make sure are kept away, because you want to protect them. And you want to protect certain parts of yourself from those who would wish to do you harm.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I'm going to caveat this in the fact that, yes, this is for the internet, and I know we're recording it, and I know we're going to be putting this out into the world. But for this conversation, I want to give you anything that you have that you are interested in. I'm not going to sit here and verbally diarrhea all of my life out to you, because there's no value in that, because it's just mass information. But in no way am I going to hold anything back. If you're asking me about, a time in Afghanistan that was really rough, I will tell you those things that are rough for me, because I've seen what happens when you don't. And I've told the story in the collective many times, but my grandfather, World War II vet, also combat engineer, he thought himself a coward for 70 plus years based off of one incident that he never talked about until I got home from Afghanistan. And it was very simple. He was working on a railroad in France, trying to rebuild one that had been bombed out before the Allies took it over. They called for volunteers to go up to the front. He did not raise his hand. He's already in a war zone. He's already doing a job.
Didn't raise his hand.
Didn't raise his hand.
Coward.
70 years of self-destruction that he was a coward for that one incident. Never talked about it with anybody. Not once. And like,
how did that manifest itself throughout his life?
So my mom would tell me stories about her getting belted, like
Sure.
the big thick leather belts for doing stuff wrong. He would have rage incidences. He would never allow himself to believe that he was worth what he was. And he would constantly be seeking more knowledge and trying to learn more. Like, he got his pilot's license. He was building himself a plane in his garage. Like, he was an electrician. He was a mechanic. He had all of these skills. Would never put himself out to the world with the fact that he had those skills. He ran a small shop for a little while that him and my grandmother they owned a shop in Shaunavon in Saskatchewan for many years. And then eventually they just sold it, and then they moved, and he worked for as an electrician for a while. Like, he would always take the back seat because he totally believed that he did not have the value or the courage to stand up and do the thing, even though he volunteered for the war.
Yeah.
He volunteered for a hazardous duty in terms of being a combat engineer. You're dealing with explosives and high, construction of really big structures and stuff like that. Easy to get taken out pretty fast. But that one decision and the fact that he did not talk about it affected everything else he made in his life.
Worth is such a funny thing, isn't it?
100%.
I mean, what is worth? When you look at it, like, what is something worth? Well, I've got a pencil in my hand here. It's worth, I don't know, what do pencils go for, right? But, hold on a second. It's a Stadler. It's got some branding on this thing. So, and it's got a white eraser, not a pink eraser on it. I mean, that's probably worth a little bit more because it's got some fancy branding on it. Like, still a pencil.
Yeah.
Still like how is one thing going to be worth more than the other? And so many people will place their worth on external factors, on what they feel other people think that they are worth.
100%.
And many of these people are hanging around the wrong people. Myself included. Yourself included. Yep. I mean, in the past, looking at these different things.
That was the first thing we said when you walked in. You're like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, one of the things I struggle with is my own self-worth. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, we went into it beforehand of like family and all this other stuff. But it really comes back to the fact of what value are you adding? So let's use this pencil for an example. This pencil on its own is worth the wood and the tin and the rubber and the graphite that it is comprised of. But what is it capable of?
Well, it depends on whose hands you put it in.
Exactly. And what does that if you expand that into the next realm, like the fact that you and I are sitting here taking notes and what we write down is what we speak about, and the information that we're giving out to the world is then taken upon by those people. We can literally change the world with this pencil. Because this expands into the ideas that come out of my head, that expands into what we engage in terms of conversation, that expands into what people hear on a regular basis when they listen to the podcast. That can inspire the next person, which goes back to the collective, which is why we got it started, because we just needed a place that the ideas could flow, they could be challenged, they could be accepted, they could be engaged upon, so that value could just be multiplied and expanded and developed on, and then engaged again, and then re-brought in, and then thought of from a different angle, and so on and so forth. So this pencil by itself is worth 15 cents, but what it can produce is priceless.
Okay, so my head's going in a bunch of different different areas on this one. And maybe it's something for after the show as well, but a boots on the ground portion of the collective. Have you put much thought into that?
Yeah, we have. We've talked about it a lot.
Because there's an action piece in there. In your own example that you give here about the pencil without action, exertion without action, right? Or ideas without exertion, without effort, are basically meaningless.
Yeah.
Having an actionable piece on there, I think, would be an interesting piece of the puzzle to really grow the collective and bring everybody into it.
Well, that's one of the other things I wrote down here that's really difficult for me is self-promotion. And that's what it comes down to is like, again, my own personal worth, what I value myself as, integrates itself into the collective. So how I promote the collective, how I engage in it, how I actually run the show is I minimize myself in order to highlight the conversation. I try to step aside personally to moderate the conversation and pass it around to the other people that we have on the show. But we do that specifically because the highlight of the show is the conversation. It's not me. It's not Sean. It's not our stories, our backgrounds. It is the conversation. We want that to be the key proponent of it. But to your point, the physical aspect of it, the community is what the collective is. It's the people that are engaging. So that's a very tough subject of creating a boots on the ground kind of deal. And we've talked about it a lot. Sean and I have come up with lots of ideas about, possibly a speaking event or maybe a live action engagement where I could like run a show up on a stage and have people in the audience that could actually ask questions physically and be there and like take it all in and then engage people, or even smaller things like going out to a cabin in the woods with 15 people and just sitting down and really discussing some of the issues that we all struggle with, that kind of thing. So that's a tough one. We've talked about a lot about it, trying to figure out what to do. And the other thing is Sean is very specific that the first one has to knock it out of the park. We cannot, at this point where we are right now, same thing with the shirts, right? Like we had to make a shirt that was going to just be outstanding, be taken on by every single person that looked at it and was like, yes.
So I disagree.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. We've had that conversation too, but hit me. Which part did you?
So I disagree. Okay. A few different things. I've told you about the value story of the rifle in the past, the rifle work I did with, had a guy come in looking for some rifle work done, did so much work on this thing, gave him a absolutely silly, cheap price tag. He walks out. Okay, great. I'm like, he didn't say he liked it. He didn't say.
Yeah.
Came back the next week, wanted me to do the exact same thing in a different caliber on a different rifle, park rise, a cut crown, thread, headspace to specifications within a few thousandths of an inch. And I'm like, forget this guy. He's taking advantage of me now. I'm going to charge right.
Yeah.
And so I charged him not even a terrible amount, but just kind of what the Blue Book median line would say. And he left and he came back with white gloves on and he said, this is quality work. Mm-hmm. I did the exact same thing. I just charged him more. Mm-hmm. And that's always stuck in my mind when it comes down to worth. It's when you say we got to knock it out of the park, it's got to be just stellar because we're at this certain point, right? The story of the pottery class.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be where my head goes. So a teacher says, okay, class, this half the class, you have to make the perfect pot. Mm-hmm. Spend the entire semester, read it, learn it, make it perfect. The other half of the class, make as many as you want. Go nuts, right? Make 10 a day if you want, right? Throw them out. Just keep going. At the end of the semester, the class that was allowed to repeatedly make, destroy, learn, go through it, had a far superior pot than the ones that were tasked with just making that one perfect pot. I would say start small and just do it.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, if it's going to be perfect and it's going to go out the door, that's a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Done is better than perfect. And if I'm sitting there trying to make this perfect thing and then, it's not perfect. Okay, next week. Whereas and a person we both know has reached out and he says, I can get this auditorium. I can get this thing set up. Let's do something, right? So I said, okay. Now I'm waiting for him to do it. And if he's listening, he knows who he is.
Yeah. But
done's better than perfect. And if our own sense of self-worth is the same as my second rifle that I put out. If I just say, I'm worth it, you guys will get value. And you'll get value because I care about you. I care about what I'm doing, and I want to give you 110% of what I have. They will see that value, and they'll get it too.
Yeah.
That would be my approach to it.
I agree with you, and I think that the challenge, at least, is that for me, and I can't speak for Sean here on this one, but for me, I really want it to be. Well, I know it's going to be successful regardless. Like that's not a question.
Depends on how you measure success, right?
And that's so my measure of success is that are people going to gain from being there? Obviously, I don't want them to show up and us just kind of sit around and hang out and shoot the shit and be like, hey, hurrah, it's a great time. But I want to put on a show. I want to make people think. I want to create an environment that we can have deep, thoughtful, meaningful conversations without the trappings of, everything else, all of the other stuff. So, I guess more than anything, I want it to be truly valuable for the people that show up, especially if people are going to be spending money, because I do not want anybody walking away from a collective event thinking that they wasted their money or wasted their time or wasted any of that, because it really should be a value-added project across the board. But you're right. We do need to get it. And we did it with the collective anyway. I mean, the first episodes we had out there were not great. It took a lot of reps to really hammer those out. And we hit our stride probably mid-June after 120, 140 episodes, something like that. We really hit our stride. And then we had the Men's Mental Health Month, 30 days of talking about men's mental health stuff. Yeah. And from everything from, sexual dysfunction and pornography to worth we talked about to, community to fatherhood to we talked about as much as we could. Mm-hmm. It was a great month. But after that, we were like, okay, we need to dial this back a little bit because it was becoming a struggle to have those conversations.
Right.
Then we hit our stride from there. We just went to town. We found the right people to have the right conversations. We started engaging the public. We started engaging the social media community to get ideas and get concepts and what is it that you guys want to hear. As much as I can put out, as much as ideas I can come up with, I'm not the end all be all say all about information. So
that brings, we're talking about worth. My second thought on this whole worth thing, we take the rifle analogy and okay, we're valued at this and people will see that. It's kind of like iPhone. Is an iPhone really worth that much more than another phone that can probably have a faster processor and all the rest? But they say, no, we're worth it. We integrate, we do all this stuff and that's part of their value proposition. But the other side as well, when you say, I want people to leave and have something worthwhile, it's your audience too. So if you have the wrong audience, if you've got the wrong people that you're attracting to you, you're always going to have this sense that either my worth is inflated or my worth is deflated, depending on your type of audience. And I've talked about in the past, before I started this podcast, I had been on one. A friend asked me to be on their podcast, and that was kind of neat. We had a couple of beers and just a little recorder in the center, and we actually recorded in the next room over here. And it's like, man, that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that, right?
Yeah.
And I'd never listened to a podcast save one that I'd seen live. And that was a present from my wife for Christmas. And she says, okay, Trav, got this wicked present for you. We're going to go see Meat Eater perform a live podcast in Seattle.
That'd be cool.
And I said, what's Meat Eater? And I said, I don't listen to podcasts. Why would I want to go see a podcast and sit down and watch these people who have no clue who they are? And I wasn't the right audience. So I sat down and there's a meet and greet ahead of time. There was a handful of us. I meet with Steve and Yanis and the whole crew there, and we're going back and forth. I actually made some friends off of that one, which is I think the biggest value off of that is the connections and the friendships that you make. But I watch a podcast. I'm like, okay, like I was not the target market for that one.
Yeah.
But people beside me, left and right, they were just beside themselves. They said, "This is fantastic. Oh, this is one of the best episodes we've heard." And they're going into it. And I'm like, okay. So I think that would be the second part for like the collective.
Yeah.
Ensuring that you prime and set up the right audience that'll be there, and guaranteed they're going to be leaving with value. It's similar to that thing recently, the event that Sachin put on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
The Night
right?
to Inspire. Yeah, I wish I could have made it out there for that one. That was that looked like a great time. I really like the idea of passing on knowledge. It's one of the reasons why I like teaching so much is that I love watching people get these, I call them aha moments, where they garner the concept, not just the information, and you can see it. They just, oh, right, that's why. Okay, and then everything else makes sense, and then their progression just kind of skyrockets from there. Those moments for me are gold. I just love watching that happen. And you see it in speaking events when people are kind of nodding, and then they go, oh, and like, you made a connection right there. Okay, cool. I see you in the third row. Okay,
Yeah.
let's hit it up. When I was doing the Walk for Veterans, the same thing. I would see people come out and they'd kind of be a little wary initially, and then start to kind of get a little closer to certain groups, and then they'd hear a story, be like, "Oh, I know that guy. I was on tour with that guy. Oh, okay." And then the connection would happen, and I'd be like, "Yes, do that more," and stuff like that. And that's what I really want to have for people, especially so anything that we do with the collective, boots on the ground style, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And you're right. It comes down to the community. We got to get the right people in the seats that are there for that purpose to engage in that kind of conversation. But as you know, I mean, you plan events and all kinds of things. You plan hunts and you have classes and all that thing. That is not an easy task to create that kind of thing. So
no, but you have a framework of people who've gone down that road before who can lean into.
Yeah.
So when did you first kind of come to the realization that you would like to have a better sense of self-worth? And have you had your aha moment yet?
I've had a number of aha moments. Initially, the very first one was I had just gotten out of the military. I had a 5-month-old son, and he did not respond well to Master Corporal Burrells very well, and that's who I was at the time. I was a recruit instructor. I was 100% knife hand ready, do this, and expect people to just go. And I walked into the room at one point in time, and my son was just like playing with toys or something like that. And the moment I walked in the room, he flinched, just like a... And in that moment, I was like, okay, this is not working. I need to do better. Something's wrong here. So I started going to therapy. I started researching therapy. I started researching post-traumatic stress. I started researching all the things that I was dealing with instead of just kind of accepting what the military had offered me at the end of it. And that's the big thing was when I got out of the military, they were like, okay, well, go see the OSI clinic here in Edmonton. They'll hook you up with a doc. Have a good life.
With a dog or a doc?
A doc, sorry.
Okay,
like
yeah, no, I thought it was like a support dog or something.
No. And so I started seeing him, and I just expected that he would know what to do. So I did what he asked me to do.
Right.
And so I spent a year there, and I just got worse. Every time I saw him, I'd get worse, and I'd get worse. And there was at one point, I realized that I would see him on like a Thursday, and then I'd be just emotionally wrecked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday would come around and I'd have like maybe a couple hours of just, relief. And then later that night I'd realize, oh God, I gotta go see him again on Thursday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday became this just anxiety of like, oh frig, now I gotta go back there. And like, so I was just jacked up 6 days of the week.
What kind of doctor?
He was a psychologist.
Do you know what kind of modality?
He really went into what he wanted us to work on was exposure therapy directly. Okay. So it was like talk therapy, but he just had me repeat the same story over and over and over and over and over and again. And it just...
How'd you find that?
It was it was horrific. It was
Right.
horrific because at the end of the session, it'd be like, oh, okay, well, our time's up. And I would just be like, and he'd be like, are you okay? I'm like, yep, I'm fine. Let me just get me out of here. And it was horrific. And it took a friend of mine. And I had no knowledge or wherewithal to go, man, this can't be right. Right. And if I was talking to a friend of mine, another vet, and he was like, man, how's the docs going? And I'm like, oh God, I got to go see him in like 3 days. And I hate his guts and I don't want to be there. And it took, one of the things that clicked in my head was it took him, he could not remember the name of my son. And I saw him every week. And I talked about my son every week because he was one of my triggers.
Yeah, that shows how much he cares.
And he just, like, every time he'd be like, so your son, and he would check his notes. Arden. Yeah, Arden. And I'd be like, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that was bad. Anyways, so I talked to my friend, and he was like, oh, man, you should just go see somebody else. I'm like, I can't. That's who they sent me to. And he's like, no, dude, you're like, you don't have to see the guy. Like, you can just go see anybody you want. If they're Blue Cross covered, like, you're good to go. Go find somebody else. And I was like, oh. Like, oh, okay.
That's brilliant advice, by the way.
100% it is. And I've told hundreds of veterans the same thing.
How many doctors did you see before you found one that clicked with you?
One.
Just one more?
Yeah. The next one I saw was
you're lucky.
And is still my doc. And the key is that I did a deep dive on what it is I wanted.
What did you want?
I wanted a trauma specialist that has experience with veterans and PTSD, and I was going through the list of modalities, was equine therapist. And I was like, equines? I grew up on a ranch. Like, yeah, I freaking love horses. Absolutely. Let's do this. And I didn't know what it was. And then I think after my first session with her, I walked out of there and I was like calm. And I was like, we've just talked about some pretty rough stuff, and I'm like relaxed and like I'm pretty good. And then the next time I saw her, again, same thing. I walked out of there going, this is very different. Like, I feel pretty good right now. And then we went out to the horses and we started working with the horses, and man, I just huge leaps in my own recovery just working with horses, because they are mirrors to your emotional state. So at any point in time, if you are agitated, or if you start going down the rabbit hole and you start feeling all the feelings again of that particular incident, they make you aware very quickly.
Can you fake it with a horse?
No.
Okay, I haven't spent much time. Really?
No, zero, none at all. One of the interesting things was I walked into a session with them at one point, and it's a horse pasture, right? There's horses out, they're wild, they're just running around in the pasture. And when you walk in, they're going to feel your energy immediately.
Interesting.
Long before you even get into the paddock, they're going to know what you're feeling. Because for a horse in the wild, they're prey animals. They get predated upon. So they have to be aware constantly of their surroundings and whether or not that particular entity that's walking up on them is dangerous or not.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, like, when you walk into an area and you're agitated and you're trying to either suppress something or you're trying to engage in something, or like if you're hunting, I mean, you've had the jitters, right? You know what it's like when you're sitting there on the rifle and your hands start to shake and the adrenaline start to pump and you're
never happened to me. What are you talking about?
So that feeling, prey animals can pick up on.
Right.
And if you can't be calm within your own body in that moment, that's where you see deer or something like that you'll be absolutely quiet. The adrenaline will start to come up and they'll go like this. Right. It's them picking up on that energy.
Nikki Van Schendel, she was the show Alone. I think it was 61 days that she survived. I think it was 61 days before she was medically RTU'd. And she said, she was on the podcast here in the past, whenever she goes in the woods, she was told this little trick, and she says it's really silly and it sounds goofy, but she does it all the time. And she goes out into the woods, she says, "Hello, forest, it's me, Nikki, I'm here."
Yep.
And she introduces herself to the forest. And she says the energy that she has if she comes out of the city and goes into the forest, all the little brown birds are chirping, all the squirrels are chirping. And about 3 days later, everything you notice starts to calm down around you.
Mm-hmm.
By introducing herself to the forest, she's able to very quickly assimilate, she says, her energy and the forest energy. And it sounds frou-frou, airy-fairy,
Yep.
but there's something to it. And
100%.
I do it and I practice it, and there is something to that. And I notice that when I'm out in the woods, not around horses, but if I want to see the animals, I got to check my head. I got to gut check, and I essentially send out the vibe.
Yep. That's it. You become 100% in the moment. Then that is, true mindfulness is you check your, like you said, you check your brain, you check your mind, you check your soul, you check every other things like, okay, how am I doing? Okay, I'm pretty good. All right, let's go chill out. And you just become a part of the pattern versus when you are looking for animals or you are looking for something, you're not going to see anything, right? And if you do see something, it's going to be 4 or 5 kilometers down that way, and it's just going to disappear over a ridge, and you're going to be gone, right?
Had a older German fellow and was moose hunting with a group of friends, and weren't having much success in early days, trying to learn what we're doing. And this guy comes up, he's like, "What you're doing wrong is you're trying to find a moose to shoot it." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Don't think about shooting a moose. Think happy thoughts," right? And everyone thought this was funny, and then next day got a moose, right? But it was, and they're like, "Oh, that's just a fluke."
Yeah.
And this guy swears by it, and he lives by it. You don't go out there trying to find the animal. You go out there enjoying yourself, and the animals will present themselves to you.
Yep. I mean, I've been hunting for years too, and it's the exact same thing. Anytime I go out and if I'm anxious or I'm looking hard for something, I rarely see it. Or if I do see it, it'll be so far away that it's beyond the reach, right? That you're like, "Oh, that's not going to happen today." But it's the same thing when I was dealing with the horses, when I was doing my therapy, is if I walked in there going like, "Okay, I'm going to fix this problem."
Yeah.
They would be off on the other side of the pasture. Like I would never even get close to them because they were just not going to deal with me in that manner. Because it becomes basically when you're working with horses and you're calm, you become part of the herd. So they just kind of accept you as part of the group, and they walk in and amongst, in and around you, as they would other horses. And if you're really agitated, or I was working with a particular horse, is beautiful. He's a big saddlebred, and he's got a giant white cross on his head, and his name is Dante. And I thought it was fantastic. And,
Love it.
Absolutely beautiful horse, but he was the herd boss. And if you came in there with a negative mindset, he was going to engage you immediately. So there were lots of times I'd walk in there kind of agitated or pissed off or have something in my head, and he would just walk up and he would like step on my toe, or he would like bite my elbow, or he would like lean into me so that I would have to move or push him away, or something to engage me in my body. Bring me back to this moment rather than being, years ago in Afghanistan, that kind of stuff. So I cannot state how much equine therapy got me to where I was. And that was one of the huge leaps, was just work with the horses until you're at peace inside the herd.
So I there's something I've toyed around with a bit in my head. And I think that, number one, for most people that have problems out there, they don't actually have problems, right? The problems are more what manifest, or that they look at it because they haven't looked at it in the right way. They haven't, what does Shakespeare say? There's neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so, right? Yes. And sometimes all a person needs is just that little bit different perspective.
Yes.
They feel really bad because they're running away from their problems. And someone says, "Hold on a second. Are you running away from your problems? Or are you running towards something more desirable?" Yep. And then click, that little frame, and they're like, "Hell yeah, I'm going to go full force and run towards that more desirable thing." So I think for a lot of people, the problems, if they look at it and say, what I'm feeling right now is a natural byproduct of sort of my life experiences and
Yep.
the way that my body and mind deals with it and how I go through it. And rather trying to fight it, maybe explore it, and then you see somebody else, surround yourself in the community of different people who can accept and maybe help you frame it in a more positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm a little torn because I truly do believe that for a lot of things, it's just, there is a snap. Sometimes it's like people say, oh, Travis, you're really successful. It's like, just happened overnight. Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah, 12 years ago.
that's right. 12 years of work for an overnight success, right?
Yep.
And maybe that's it. You got to try all these different paths, and you got to look at these things, and you have to, I guess, fully visualize, understand, and then commit to make it work. So I do believe there's that snap moment, but there's also the whole concept of repetitive patterns to make it a habit.
Yeah.
And like when you say you're still seeing the same person, you're still doing the equine therapy, you know the right path, you know the area to go, but you're still doing these things because you can see that there's work to be done.
100%. And I would say more so than just work, but there is consistent benefit. And I think that's the key, is that a lot of people I know that struggle with therapy, or they struggle with their own issues, or they, oh, that's too woo-woo for me, or whatever. I actually got a buddy of mine who was like, man, you're looking great. We haven't seen each other in years. He's like, what have you been doing? And I'm like, oh, equine therapy, man. You got to like go see some horses. And he's like, I'm allergic to horses. I'm like, don't go see horses. But it is a particular lane or a particular modality. If you find something that you actually get benefit out of, keep going. Like, absolutely. There are going to be hard times. There were times that I was working the horses that nothing seemed to work. But I knew that if I kept working with the horses, I would see benefit.
Sure.
Same thing with jiu-jitsu, right? There are times that I try a technique that it doesn't make any sense and my body doesn't seem to work, and I don't know why I can't get to that position, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll come back to it in 6 months. After I get some more work and I can maybe look at it from a different angle, or get to hear from there, or maybe just the route that I'm taking is wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to back up, do 3 or more steps off to the left, and then come at it from the right. Like, who knows?
I think for doing something physical in nature, like jiu-jitsu, and trying to find that right move, trying to improve yourself mentally, physically, whatever the new skill is, that mindset shift is massive. And you actually have to believe it.
Yes.
It's not okay just to lie to yourself and say, oh, I can do this. And then you totally can't, because your body knows, your mind knows, and you're just sitting there lying to yourself. Something I don't think I've ever told anyone this, definitely not on the podcast, but I didn't know how to say my S's until I was in grade 11. So I went for about, whatever that time period is. I ended up going through a bunch of schools. I got kicked out of a bunch of them. And I was going into a new school for grade 11. And I said, there's no way I want to go into this new school and I can't say my S's. I could fake them pretty good unless I smiled. So I learned never smile, right? The second I smiled, it would come out, and I saw so many different people, and they're like, oh, it's because you need braces, or you got a gap in your teeth, or whatever it is. And I was given the choice as a kid. You can get braces or you can get a bike. And I said, I want a bike. I got neither. But anyways, I learned my S's in one day. And it took 2 weeks of just kind of consciously thinking about it and practicing in order to kind of make it a bit of a habit. But I did that on my summer break between grade 10 and grade 11. I saw a woman out at the Surrey Memorial Hospital in their speech therapy clinic, and she came in and she says, try this. And I tried it. And I came back the next day and she says, well, we can do one more day if you want, but I don't think you need to. You just need to practice now.
Yeah.
And I tried so hard all the way up into that point of always practicing, always trying. And I think a lot of things are like that. I think if you're having physical challenges, things that you're trying to do in jiu-jitsu, all of a sudden you have to find that right way. When people say practice makes perfect, that's completely wrong. Practice makes What?
Progress.
Practice makes permanent.
Permanent, sure. Yeah.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
There you go.
So you actually have to practice the thing properly. And when you said you saw one more person, you had that aha moment, your friend says, go see somebody else. I think that's something that a lot of people could use, because they go in and they say, I talked to the doctor. They say, I got these problems. I've been working on it. It's not working. Yeah, because everyone's different, and their approach or they can say the exact same thing that somebody else can say, but that somebody else connects with you, and it makes it work.
That connection is key. And I've told many people this that say they struggle with therapy, and I'm like, how many therapists have you seen? And they're like, one. I'm like, okay, go see another one. But I've talked to people who have been like, I've seen 16.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, go see somebody else. And just keep, if therapy is the realm that you want to go down, keep hitting that realm until you find what you need to find. If, I hear this a lot too, and it drives me nuts when people are all like, oh, the gym is my therapy or the range is my therapy. And I'm like, no, that's a Band-Aid for the issue. You're not actually dealing with the issue. You're just going to the gym.
Right.
You're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
You're it's a mindful moment.
Yep.
And yet there's lots that can be done in there. And same thing with jiu-jitsu and same thing with all these other things. Great. Keep doing those things. But if you want to actually explore what the issue is, I mean, you and I sat down, we had this great conversation before we got recording, family issues and, self-worth and where do you think that comes from? And perhaps what about this? And I wonder, and it's those moments of curiosity of, I took the time to think about the issue that I was having with my sister. And then by doing that, that opened the door to the next realm of, oh, well, where did that come from? Oh, well, it came from these actions. Oh, well, those actions started with this. Oh, okay. And then you just back to the core of it. And you go, oh, that's... So, the issues with my own self-worth come from the fact that I always was the fall guy growing up as a kid. And because of that, I put myself into a position to be the fall guy on a regular basis. So I would always be the dude that took the brunt of whatever was coming down the pipe because that was going to happen anyway. So may as well just put myself in the door anyway. Right? That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a machine gunner, as we were saying earlier. They're always in the worst position anyway. That's where all the rounds go to anyway, right? If people are going to shoot at me, I'm going to be the guy everybody shoots at, because then everybody else can do their job.
And you were telling me before that you had mentally role play, so you're prepared. When it goes wrong, here's what I'm going to do. Not if it goes wrong. When it goes wrong. And so much of that mindset, I find, we will create our own destiny. We will create our own future. When this happens, guess what? It's going to happen. So if we have the power to be able to do that, why don't we input when it goes right? Here's some, I'm going to steal from your old podcast title, tools from the toolbox that I can put in just in case, so I can understand and get myself back on that track for when it goes right.
Yeah, that's one thing that that's a great line. I'm going to steal it too. But that's one thing I didn't do for many years. I never looked at what was going to go right. I always wondered why I wasn't, why am I not getting promoted when these other guys are getting promoted? Why are these guys getting courses and I'm not? Versus, why am I not putting myself in a position to be promoted? Why am I not acting in a way that's going to get me on this course? I just kind of expected things were either going to come to me or they weren't. And at no point did I take the mindset of, if I work towards that, then I'll get there. I just was always like, well, if I work towards that, I'm going to get thrown in the friggin' in the bin anyway. So what's the point of working? It's either going to show up or it's not. And that was a huge leap for me later on in my life after I was out of the military and so on and so forth, where I got to the point that I knew that I could succeed if I worked towards success rather than I'm going to put the work in and fail, and that's where I'm going to sit. Versus I put the work in and I just keep putting the work in because I know that at the end of that, success will show up. So I always wanted to be a jumper. I wanted to go airborne. I was like, throw me out of a plane. This is going to be great. But I never did any work. I never put myself in a position to be that guy that when the unit goes, hey, we got some slots on the next jump course, who would you recommend? My name was not on that list. because I didn't put the work in to do that. I could have. I could have started reading them Pams. I could have started doing pull-ups in the hallway. Like I could have put myself in a position to succeed in that moment.
But did you actually want that? I mean, there's the mindset of, hey, that'd be cool. That's what I want. And then there's the reality of, holy cow, I'm going to be jumping out of airplanes. I'm going to be a hard charge here. I just look at all this work that goes in there. I want the end result, but maybe I don't want that. I like the idea of it, but not the actuality of it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not a bad thing if you can realize that if you don't actually like the actuality of it, maybe we just find out the actuality of something that we do like.
Yeah.
And where you are suited.
I wanted to be a hard charger. Like that's the thing. I really wanted to do the job especially it's one of the reasons why I volunteered for the engineers was I was like, in Afghanistan, like they're going to be in the worst possible position.
Right.
Let's hit it.
Right.
But to your point, I had no idea what it took to get there. I just knew that I wanted to get to this end result, and I just kind of expected that I'm in line. I'll eventually get there, without any real thought as to what it took to get there. So it was very. I mean, I got offered my dive course, and they were like, "Hey, man, you want to go on the dive prelim?" And I was like, "No, I want to be a jumper, not a diver." Had I had some forethought, I would have, understood that by completing the dive course, I would be a shoo-in for the jump course. So it's it's personal. It's learned experience, unfortunately, for a lot of us. We have to.
Yeah.
But to your point, though, I think had I known, had I either had some leadership that actually sat me down and was like, man, you have the skill, you have the capability, you have the mindset for it, but the physicality portion, this is what you need to do. You need to be able to do that. You like give me a little bit of direction. Unfortunately, the engineer regiment was not. Did not have some great leadership for a long time.
So the few kind of people that I've met in my life that seem to be really successful in life and be able to achieve these goals that they're looking for are either A, the ones that have others around them that have succeeded and they can see that path forward and they can talk with it and they can understand. And that's, not necessarily nepotistic, but it provides a framework that if one man can do, another can do.
Yeah.
It's like the Miracle Mile.
Yes.
Okay, so for those who are listening here, who ran it? It was Roger Bannister and there's Landry, was it?
I can't remember.
Somebody will correct me on here. We got a statue down in Vancouver, the two of them doing so Roger Bannister ran a mile in under 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, everyone thought the 4-minute mile was impossible.
Yep.
However, after the 4-minute mile, I think there were 7 other people who ran it the next year.
Yep.
And then it was like 60-something the year after. And now everyone runs a mile in under 4 minutes. What happened? What changed? All that changed was people knew it was now possible. And so the people who I found do well are the ones who know it's possible based on the structure, the people around them that have done it and they've associated and they say, hey, you can do it, I can do it too, right? Or the people that just blindly know I'm going to do it.
It's going to happen, yeah.
Right. And they're so pig-headed and stubborn and they push it forward and they just consume anything they want and around. Now, that's a difficult path because you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And when you finally get there, it'll be hard-earned.
Yeah.
You'll look back. Did the ends justify the means? I look at that in business. I've done things. I remember our first bookkeeper. Trav, you can't afford a bookkeeper. Right? I'm like, yeah, but I need someone to help me with this. I need to understand what's going on.
Yep.
I'm going to hire a receptionist. Trav, you can't afford to have a receptionist, right? But I did it anyways. And I said, okay, first receptionist, tell you what, come on for a few hours a day, a couple days a week, we'll do this, right? And by the end of the first week, it was like, okay, when can you come on full time?
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much business I was actually missing by not having these pieces. I always know I will achieve what I'm putting my head towards. However, when I get to the end result and look back, maybe there's a much smarter way I could have got here. Did the ends justify the means? And so sometimes there's got to be a gut check and a recalibration. Am I moving towards the right area? Am I doing this in the right way?
Yeah.
This is where I see the biggest value of the collective, because you humanize people who would otherwise be it would be illusory for a lot of people to think, oh, I'm just going to pick up the phone and I'm going to talk with a Delta Force operator or Green Beret so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
Or people who've been successful in business, or people who've done things that are extraordinary in their own life. And then you talk to them and you realize, holy crow, they're just like me. They've had the same sort of background. They've had the same sort of things. They just took a left when maybe I took a right.
Yep.
And that's where I think if people haven't tuned into the collective or listened to it, should, and they pick up some really good value. And I got to wonder, out of all the episodes that you've done, you've probably had some interesting stories from listeners who's come up and say, you know what, because of this happened.
Yeah.
And I was hoping maybe you could talk about a few of those sort of powerful stories, either from guests who've been on, who've really impacted the direction of the collective, or people in the audience who said, you know what, this has really made a difference. And do you have any of those?
Oh man,
just to put you on the spot.
So many. It's actually hard to narrow it down to one or two. But for guests, the coolest thing that I've seen in terms of for guests been on is the amount of collaboration that's happened afterwards. So like we talked about the green room, after we shut down the recording and everyone's sitting around talking, and then it's like, oh, you're out here. Oh, I'm out here. Oh, okay. Well, I have this business opportunity in that area. You mind if I check it out? Can we talk? And then it just the guests themselves start working towards the collective in and of themselves, right? They start creating a community and they start working together. And there have been, I'd say, at least a dozen collaborations between guests, businesses, and things like that have been on the collective that would never have met had I not scheduled them on the same day.
Interesting.
So there's that, and then for the listeners, the people that are watching, I've had so many messages I couldn't even tell you of like, man, this particular episode got me out of my rut. I'm now running. I'm now active. I'm eating right. I'm doing these. I started jiu-jitsu. I joined the military. I joined the police force. Like, I couldn't tell you how many of those I've had where people have completely changed their life from listening to a episode.
They've kicked off the Dorito bag slippers?
100% they've kicked off the Dorito bag slippers, which I still got to make a shirt or maybe some slippers with Dorito bags that people can kick off or something. But
they actually do make Dorito bag slippers.
Okay, I got to get some of those.
Or at least Dorito slippers.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get some because those would be perfect for the show. But in terms of powerful stories, honestly, the biggest one is for me. And my own personal growth from the collective has been exponential. Just like I went from trying to help out who I could to actively seeking out different ways to change the world. Like I got Tools for Toolbox started because I saw a hole.
Yeah.
I saw, a bunch of people who were struggling. I saw people who had information and they weren't connecting. So how do I do that? I get the podcast together. Well, let me interview you, and what tools do you use for, keep your mindset and your self-worth and all that stuff.
Sure.
That's great. But I was it was like a hobby. And, I would talk to this guy and maybe that guy, and, I'd reach out to certain people, but I wouldn't reach out to other people.
Why?
A lot of it was worth. A lot of it came down to like, this guy isn't going to talk to me. Like, there's no way. And then through the collective, I was constantly in need of guests. That was one of the big ones. It's just like I had to have guests every day for, a whole year. So I was just spamming people. Like, it was just like, that guy looks cool.
DM, TikTok DM.
Bam. DM, Instagram, Messenger, email, and I just out to whoever and it would take me, 5-6 minutes to kind of scroll through someone's Instagram and be like, they're pretty cool. Send them a message.
And what are you looking for?
Again, looking for, cool.
Yeah.
And capability.
Okay.
So someone that has had a life that is full, they've done a bunch of different things, and isn't self-righteous in their in the way that they were presenting themselves online. So that was the big one. Was my instant turnoff was the moment I saw somebody who was all like, "I'm so friggin' awesome. Come take my class, do my thing, buy my book, blah blah blah." Versus the people that I really like are, "Oh yeah, I got a book out. Just came out a couple weeks ago. I really appreciate any feedback you guys would send me."
Yeah.
Cool. Right? Like,
yeah.
Those are the
Building
people
the Elite.
Yes.
Have you seen that book? Of course you have.
Yes.
I mean, it's the Bible, right?
It is, yeah.
Craig Weller, and it's just humble with massive information.
100%. And we've had Craig on a number of times. We've had Jonathan on a number of times. Freaking awesome dudes. Super relaxed. And they're the similar type of people. They just want more information.
Yeah.
How do we gain more information? Well, we start talking to people. How do we talk to people? I put them in a room together and then see what happens. And I think we've had so last I did the math, we were over 700 guests total. We're over 400 episodes total. In terms of unique guests, because obviously we've had...
Sorry, how many?
400 episodes we're over.
Yeah.
We're over 700 guests total.
Wow.
But again, those are like repeated.
Yeah,
Some of them repeated. But in terms of unique guests, we're over 200 as well. So like I've been hammering the internet with just trying to get new, and I'm still looking for new people, right? So I'm constantly bringing new people onto the gold mine, and then we use that as kind of a tryout, see if the person's all right, and then they come on the collective for the longer form podcast. But it is the growth in myself in terms like broadcasting, like being able to speak clearly and concisely. Being humble in a conversation, not having to be heard. That was a big one for me that I had to get over. Was I really struggled. I'd sit in a conversation with a bunch of people and I'd have to make my opinion known. Like people have to know what I have to say. And then I'm like, no, they don't. Cool. Like if the conversation is flowing, let the conversation flow. I don't need to be in there. Just let it run. So those two, and then my own self-worth of the fact of the collective this is a big deal. This is a professional production. I'm a professional podcaster. Like this is a key to who I am as a person at this point. And people need to be involved. So get out there, get talking to people, engage people. And like when we first started, somebody'd ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm, ex-military and I kind of run a little podcast off to the side." Right.
Yeah.
And now people ask me what I do. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a podcaster. I got this wicked show. It's called The Collective. We talk to these people and I'm in it."
That's awesome. People ask me what I do. I've never said podcaster. I've never once said that. I usually say, well, as little as possible, right?
Possible. But this is an interesting point. Is that earlier we asked you kind of made I wouldn't say a throwaway comment, but you'd say, "Oh well, you don't want to burn bridges or you don't want to blow up bridges or anything like that." But in my mind, and especially coming from an engineer background, sure, if you need to blow up a bridge, blow it up. Get rid of it. You can build a new one.
Yeah, we're talking about relationships and a mindset of do I have to blow up this bridge? Do I have to you go through life? Maybe I just don't go over that bridge, or But there are times you need to absolutely detonate that bridge.
100%, and in your own mind too, like in your own person. If you don't remove that section of your life, even for just a little bit, you'll never know what it's like to live without it. So I quit smoking. I've basically quit drinking. I've done a bunch of I'm working out more often. I'm doing all these things. But had I kept the piece of me that was just kind of relax on the couch and chill out for a little bit.
Tell me about quitting drinking.
The
why.
So that was an interesting one. There was a point in time I was in the fridge, and I went to go for a beer that was in the fridge. And I wasn't a super heavy drinker, but I would have a drink or two a night. Yeah. And my doc always says that makes me a heavy drinker, but...
It's how did you... Are we counting beers too?
Yeah, well, I guess. Geez.
You count my fives now.
Oh, geez, no. But I would enjoy a drink with dinner.
Sure.
Or with lunch. But I never considered myself oh man, I need a drink.
Yeah.
And I went to the fridge one day and I was out of beer. And I was like, oh man, I need to go to the store and get some more beer. And in that moment, I was like, do I? Do I need to? I don't think I need to. you know what? I'm going to try. And so I just stopped drinking for, I think it was 2-3 months. And, and just right off the bat, I was just like, oh, okay, so I don't actually need to drink. Okay, well, that makes sense. And so but at that point, I was like, I'm still going to go buy some beer because I do enjoy the flavor and I enjoy having it. And then Sean and I were talking at one point in time, and he was like, he has a rule. He gives himself 6 ounces, 6 drinks a year. Yeah. Period.
I want to remember its day.
Yeah. And that's, there's, you start locking those in, and it made me think of like, why was I drinking to begin with? And it was more of a, just because everybody else was drinking, and that eventually became a habit that I just was drinking. And my boys used to laugh about it, and they'd be like, they'd fight over who could run to the fridge to get me a beer first, kind of thing. Like, it's like, why am I doing this? Like, and I'm wasting money on alcohol that at that time, I wasn't even recognizing what I was doing. It was just so rote that I would have a beer with dinner. And now I've taken the attitude of make it worth it. So, if I'm going to go out with some friends that I haven't seen in 15 years and we're going to sit around and, swap old war stories or whatever, or we're going to get into a deep philosophical discussion, make that drink worth it. Pick one that's like, you're really going to enjoy, and you're really going to, like, it's going to mark the occasion.
I've heard doctors talk about how there is absolutely no benefit to alcohol. There's only downside. And I've heard others say, well, hold on a second. There is that social side, and there is a benefit, and you're a social group in the gatherings, and it's that whole moderation, of course, is key. I thought, well, maybe I'll stop drinking. I give it a year, see what happens, right? And I set a date. I wanted to see what it would do for my cognitive function. And I also noticed that, like, I wasn't a heavy drinker, but, have a couple drinks, and my head wasn't in the happiest place the next day. I was maybe a little bit more short. And that was the biggest thing that I found that alcohol can do, is it robs you. It robs you of your time. It robs you of your patience, at least for me. And so I gave it a year. Actually, I think it was closer to 2 years. And I was like, well, I kind of like maybe a glass of wine with a steak. So introduced a little bit here and there. But it's an interesting one. I think if people are having difficulties, and a lot of people who've listened to the collective are people who are looking for something, looking for help, looking for answers. And I got to say, if you can start cutting that piece of the puzzle out, the alcohol, substances, whatever it might be, and if that substance is even like your phone, scrolling, doom scrolling, social media, limit those substances. Get out and move, right? Get a bit of exercise, even if it's just going for a walk. Sleep, get some proper sleep, and have some form of purpose, something you're doing things for. Holy crow, the number of people that I've seen just turn their lives around by keeping those vital 4 things in their mind.
It's beautiful, and it goes to the point, sometimes you got to blow that bridge up. Sometimes you got to sometimes you just got to say, I'm not going to drink for a year. I'm not going to drink for 2 years. Just completely remove it from your life. Boom, bridge is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. After a while, you can build a footbridge, or you can put a little carabiner line across, or like whatever you need to do.
And I like it because you never know what it would be like without that bridge.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And you brought something up. One of the biggest values from the collective is the relationships. Yeah. So, everyone's looking for the secret to success. And I've said this before, and people have told me, Travis, it's not personal. It's just business. And I said, bullshit.
Yeah.
Everything about business is personal.
100%.
It's created based off of relationships. These relationships take time to establish. They're based on trust. You hurt that trust. You hurt that relationship. You hurt that business.
Yep.
And I would say that so much of what I've done in life and in business is just based off of those personal relationships, making sure if you said you're going to do something, you do it, even if it hurts you. Maybe next time I won't say I'm going to do that. But that relationship key, I think, is one of the other huge aspects to the collective, that people who actually go out and engage, because there's a lot of people who listen and who watch, and I'm sure they get something out of it, but there's those people who engage. And I've watched it from the sidelines. I've been on a few episodes. I see it happen. I've watched these people's arcs, and I like to pay attention. I like to watch human behavior, and I've watched their social media and the arcs that people are actively out there engaging, and how much better their lives are, not the next day, not even a month later, but that progressively little bit that they go in, that success is an accumulation of small habits over time.
Yeah. And I mean, all these things are learned behaviors. Everything that we do is a learned behavior, right? Every negative aspect of our life, every negative coping mechanism, everything, it's a learned behavior from some sort of stimulus from prior. So if you can learn how to do something negatively, you can learn how to do something positively. And that's part of the community is that I was talking to my wife about this actually on the way here. It just kind of sparked was the fact that for the average veteran or first responder or something like that, by being in a service modality, a lot of times what we do is we put ourselves in the back seat. We make sure that other people get taken care of constantly.
Yep.
And by doing that, it creates this almost this habit, when it basically does become a habit, a learned behavior of that when other people are struggling, I need to take a step back. So you start to learn that if I'm struggling, I don't want other people to have to take a step back to put me on that pedestal, to put me forward. So I'm going to start restricting myself. And you start to slowly work away from that community. You start to slowly siphon yourself away from
You isolate.
that. Yeah, and you just isolate a little bit more, and you start to get in your little box, and then it becomes smaller and smaller. And by doing that, again, you're inside your own head in a negative-filled box by yourself.
Is that isolation something you've struggled with?
Oh, yeah, for many years.
Are you still struggling with that?
Less so now. My wife actually told me when we were dating that she was like, you're a social butterfly. And I was like, what? No, I hate people. But at the time,
You're just a butterfly.
I hated myself. That was the big issue, was that I didn't want myself to get out there.
Why?
Mostly just due to the fact that I knew how messed up I was. I knew how angry I was. I knew how all of the issues that I was dealing with was going to put extra weight on anybody else that I engaged in.
So what would you do?
Well, what I did was start working on myself.
No. What would you do in the time as opposed to going out?
Oh, instead of doing that, I would come back into the house. I wouldn't go out. I would, as soon as then it went from the house, it went to the basement. And then from the basement, it usually went into my gun locker, because that becomes a security thing, right?
Sure.
I try to become like a little fortress with it in myself. No, I can't let anybody in. Everybody's got to stay out. And again, working with horses and dealing with my doctor and engaging in the veteran community, that's what started to draw me out. That's what started to bring me out to the world of first off, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that are dealing with these struggles. I'm not the only person that is going through this stuff. One of the things I like to say is we are unique but not special. And that is our experiences don't make us special. The difficulties that we go through doesn't make us special to everybody else around us.
Right.
We are still unique people. We have unique experiences, sure, but we're not special. At no point does any one person's issues make them more special than anybody else.
Yeah.
But we are different. So that's something I had to get in my own head, was the fact that we are unique but not special.
So this isolating behavior, and why I wanted you to kind of paint a little bit of a picture of what it looked like, is so some people might not even recognize it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm just, going to go down and clean my guns, or I'm going into the shop for a while and be away from everybody, or plug in front of a screen, or...
Yes.
What do you notice that coming on? Is that something that you seek?
Yep.
Okay, what does that look like?
So usually my biggest issues are crowds. Those are one of the biggest things I don't like.
Oh, I hate crowds.
It's not even so much the crowd, because if I'm on stage, or if I'm when I was doing the Walk for Veterans, we'd have hundreds of people in front of me. I have no problem with that if they're in front of me. But if I'm in the crowd, that just drives me absolutely nuts. I can't. There's too many things for me to. I'm just hyper aware of all the movement and all the sound and all the things, and the fact that I can't hear very well means that I'm down one of my senses. So everything else has to I start moving around really hard. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But what'll happen is I start to get really agitated, and then I become very direct. This is what I need to have happen. We're going to go here. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I'm out.
Yeah.
And in those instances, now I can actually see it happening. And now I'm like, I can start feeling it. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get agitated, and I'll look at my wife or whoever I'm with. I'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm not feeling great right now. Can we step off the edges and, towards a wall or whatever? And then I'll run through some very basic things, stuff that I used to have to do with the horses. Breathe. That's the big one.
Box breathe.
Breathe. Box breathing is great. I think it was Huron was talking about, the neurological sigh or something like that, the big deep breath in, and then
Right.
the second one. Doing those is a good one. But again, it was just get in touch with your body. Recognize that you're not breathing. Recognize that my back is like just jacked straight up and not, I'm not relaxed. Okay, where's my shoulders at? Okay. Relax everything. Just let myself, let it all go. Be in this moment. Are you in danger right now? No, I'm not in danger right now. Okay. This is one thing my doctor did for me. What is the likelihood of danger happening right now? And then you have to kind of process that information of well, it's pretty low.
That's a real male thing too.
Yeah.
Analytical, right?
Yes.
Just rather than going with the feelings and how do you feel. It's an interesting approach for the doctor to make. Okay, think it through.
Yeah. And because my biggest issues were there's, could be an IED. There could be a dude with a knife. There could be a dude, there's so many things in a crowd that you can't control. And control was a big one for me. So the fact that I couldn't control the crowd from the inside made me agitated. So I tried to remove myself from the crowd, and then I would remove myself from basically my own life, and then I would remove myself from my family, and then I would remove, and so you can see where that starts to go downhill. So if I can gauge it ahead of time now, that's where I got caught. And my doc used to inject that, where she'd be like, okay, so you're in a crowd. You're starting to get agitated. What's your first thought? I'm like, well, somebody's got a weapon. Okay, well, what's the likelihood of that happening? And you start running the math in your head, and you're like, well,
pretty damn low.
Pretty low.
Yeah.
We're in Canada. You're in, let's say Calgary in the Stampede or something like that. Okay, what's the likelihood of somebody having a weapon? It's pretty low. When you talk about crime stats and all these other things, you get into all that stuff. But the likelihood of it happening is pretty low. Okay, good. So what's the percentage? Let's give yourself a percentage. It's like a 2% level of an attack happening in this moment. Is it possible? Sure. Yeah, it's possible. But it's not very likely.
Yeah.
So, you bring that right back down. You go, okay, well, so if that's taken care of, then what? What's bothering you at that point? Oh, well, it could be this, it could be that, and then you just start to run through those analytically. Okay, the likelihood of this happening is low. The likelihood of this happening is low. The likelihood of this happening is low. And by doing that, again, you're just getting inside your body. You're getting inside your head. You're allowing yourself to process the information that's happening.
Being a bit more present.
Be a bit more present and let it all, and then you can kind of re-engage or just hang it where you are. Hang it on the peripheral for a bit and just watch. See what
Isolation.
happens.
You've read that Harvard study, that 80-year study?
Yeah.
Okay. 80-year study on Harvard on happiness. And they looked at different ethnicities, genders, people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and tracked them over 80 years. Yeah. What's the number one predictor of happiness across the board, across all different groups?
Community.
Strong social connections.
Yeah. We are gregarious by nature as humans. That's why horses work so well with humans, actually, is the fact that horses are gregarious by nature. They require a social structure in order to, if you put a horse alone in a paddock by itself, it'll go crazy. It'll it will literally it starts chewing at the fences, and it starts running for gates, and it does things that are not natural horse behavior. What happens when you put a human alone in a box?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
They don't tend to do well.
Exactly. And so absolutely, it's all about community. It's all about understanding that you are biologically driven to be in a group. And And I mean, there's outliers. There are people that are, they prefer solitude. Look, Sean, right? He's a pretty solo dude.
You think so?
He likes the community, but he likes to do it on his terms.
Sure. But that's okay. That's still,
okay. Yeah.
There's still, there's going to be different people in different roles.
Yeah.
And it's like you're saying, if you're up on stage, you're around the group, it's okay, right? Yeah. You're sitting in the auditorium with everyone jostling around you. Maybe not as great.
But some people love it. My wife and I were talking about it in van, right? People move to van, to Toronto, to New York, to LA because they want that vibe. They want that, like that noise, that
they feel a comfort.
They feel a comfort in there, right? Because they're surrounded by people.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, so when you're talking before about like going to the range is my therapy, there's a forced presence. It's like surfing. Hey, that's great therapy. Hey, rock climbing. But you have to be in the moment. I have to think about where my next handhold's going to be, where I'm going to set my protection, or how I'm going to tie into the next anchor. And otherwise, there's consequences. You're done with that. You're out. You still got that underlying thing. You just had a little bit of an escape from it.
Yeah.
People who love to be in built-up areas, you've just turned that noise up, and everything else that was going on is sort of masked by this radio being turned up to full blast. And, I'd find it, I'd go out in the woods, and I'd have so much work going on, stress, different things happening, and my head's running. Yeah. And I'm having arguments in my head.
Yep.
And the next thing I know, I'm talking out loud. There's nobody around me, right? I'm having a full-on argument. And it's like, that doesn't happen in the city. I just feel the energy, but you've now got this opportunity to decompress. And I think it's another sort of protectionistic sort of masking thing that people,
100%.
A lot of people can't be outside of that lest they're alone with themselves and their own thoughts.
That's the tough part. And I stated earlier when my wife and I were walking around, it was like, everybody here they're surrounded by people, but they're all alone.
Yes.
Right. And it's just, no one has the community. We're staying in my brother-in-law's apartment, and it's a massive apartment. There's 15 floors on it, and there's people all over. There's 7 or 8 rooms, a floor, that kind of thing. Like
do they know everyone's name?
No,
right,
not at all. Right? And the fact that there's walls in between the balconies, so you can't see each other, and like it creates this anonymity that when I first sat down and started talking about, or when we first got here, and I was like, Van's just this pressure of constant noise and things are always happening. It dehumanizes people.
Yes, it does.
Because who knows who that person is? But again, back in my community, Sherwood Park, like, I know my neighbors. I know both sides of my neighbors. I know the neighbors across the street. I know the people by sight that live 4 or 5 houses down that way. I know it. Like, it's not so much that I think you need to be, like intimately knowing of all the people around you. You don't need that. But, if you walk out your house and you see your neighbor across the street and hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Have a good day. Like, little things like that.
Have you heard of Rat Park?
Yes.
Okay. So interesting fellow. I think it's from North Van, actually. I believe I reached out a year or so ago. Maybe I should reach out again and talk to the guy. I think he's still there. But he put forward this hypothesis about addiction. And he came up with this harm control strategy. And it was based on, they said, if you give a rat a water bottle and one laced with, let's say, a stimulant, cocaine or whatever, right? Inevitably, that rat will just get addicted to the drugs and they'll die. And that's all they want, more. And he says, well, what if we don't just lock this rat away by itself in a small cage with these 2 different options? What if we take this rat and they put him in a big place and we put other rats in there that it can play with, and we have tunnels it can go through, and it's got a whole bunch of things it can do. And by and large, from a study, they found that, his words, some rats like to party, but not to the point of death.
Yep.
The majority wouldn't touch the laced water bottle. And I know it's come under some peer review and people looking back and forth and having different thoughts on it, but that concept was used for a harm reduction strategy.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for ensuring that people have enough space and are properly integrated and socialized. And when you start getting into the big cities, not that I've spent a ton of time out in the country, but I'm sure even in the country, there's going to be different social norms and ways that people socialize, which might not jive, which can cause isolation.
Well, I mean, it used to be, where would people congregate? Right? Their
Church.
The Legion.
Sure.
Right? The dance hall.
Yeah.
Those places that, you'd go off and work and you'd be in your family. And like when I go down to the ranch, the nearest neighbor it's like 20 minutes down the road. Like it's not close, right? You gotta, and it's a gravel road and they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We'll have to take you out there at some point. We'll go get you an elk or something because it is.
That'd be amazing.
Beautiful out there.
Figure if you can pee in your front yard and not have to worry about annoying anybody.
Exactly. You're good to go.
You're doing pretty good.
But the people there, how they congregate is through sports, through religion, through community, through all these things, right? Because you have to have that congregation point at some point. In southern Alberta, where the ranch is, the wind has driven people mad, literally mad, just from the wind.
Really?
There's wind, signs on the side of the road that are all like that'll give you accurate readings of the wind for truckers. Because it'll knock trucks over, it'll throw vehicles off the road. And there's a lot of times I've been driving where you're like pinned into the wind and like you can feel it as you're driving, just trying to hold against it.
You just need mountains.
And it's like 120, 150 kilometer an hour winds, like just ripping through that valley.
Wow.
And, but the community is what brings people back. It's when people are off on their own, out in the bush, with nobody else. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the show Alone got created, right? It was like, look at people, what happens when they're in the bush by themselves. See what happens. And then you got those, what is it? There were people that they made it like a day, 2 days.
Yeah, you know what the number one enemy to these people in the show Alone is? I see it time and again. It's all in their head.
Yep.
And I remember watching a guy, he made a beautiful shelter. He had everything set up. He's got some food. He got it all right. And he did all this in like a couple of days. He said, okay, I did my part. I'm going to go home.
Yep, done.
Yeah, I want to be with my family.
Yeah.
And that's good. Good for him. I mean, I support that. It'd be nice if he figured that out before going on the show, that he values his family to the point where he doesn't want to be missing out on their lives for a short period of time, whatever it is.
Yep.
But I can't fault a person for that.
That's one of the things that, as I said, rats for the rat park are gregarious by nature. They have a social structure. Humans, gregarious. Horses. Like, look at a lot of the mammals actually across the board throughout the planet are naturally community-driven. Yeah. Everything come together for survival, right? The trick is, and I think this is what I've learned the most from the collective, is the fact that the quality of your community matters, like to such a high degree. So when I was in high school, before I joined the military, I was a bit of a stoner. I was hanging around with the wrong crowd, and I made a very distinct decision. I was dealing pot. I was doing all kinds of things. I went to my dealer at one point. I put in a large order, and she looked at me and was like, you basically order what I order. So maybe you should just talk to my dealer, and you can just skip me as a middleman. And I was like, well, okay, who's your dealer? And she was like, oh, he's one of the Hells Angels. And I was like,
sure,
nope, just flat out, no, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm not getting engaged in that. But my life would be very different had I engaged in that. Like if I had just been like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. I'd like that.
Think of the mag wheels you could get,
right?
Think of all that.
I definitely would probably have a bike and a patch, and like at that point in time in my life, that could have been a very easy decision to go down a very bad road.
Yeah.
And the quality of the people that I was hanging around with were not quality people. Then I was like, okay, I can't do that anymore. And I got a phone call from my brother who was in South Korea at the time, and he was teaching English and doing Taekwondo and all that kind of stuff. And he asked me, he was like, well, are you going to go join the army? I was like, well, maybe. I'd always kind of kept it in like my back pocket as like I'd wanted to since I was little, and I was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. And he's like, well, what's holding you back? And I'm like,
good question.
Nothing. And he's like, well, then go fucking do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next day I went down to the recruiting office and I started the process and went and that, again, same kind of decision of he asked the right question at the right time, which made me realize that where I was not where I wanted to be.
And that's the power of having the right group and the right people around you.
Exactly. He could have just sloughed it off and yeah, sure, go get a job or whatever. It's the quality of the community. And so now the collective I am surrounded by quality people that want nothing but the best for me and my family and are going to push me to degrees that I'm not comfortable with, but they're doing it. And I know they're doing it for what they see as my best. Exactly. It's all out of love.
Yeah.
And if I get to a point where I'm no, screw off, I'm not doing that. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And move on. Right. It's that quality of community. And it comes back to here.
Yeah. I'm going to put links in the bio to the collective. Social media, website, all the rest. You guys are on YouTube. You got your YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Podcast comes through now too, which is nice. That's a good one. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should talk about, or should we keep it for a future one?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, we were going to get into self-promotion, but we never really got into that one. But I think that's a whole podcast in and of itself.
We did a little bit. I mean,
touched on it, yeah.
About self-promotion comes under self-worth, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we didn't talk about tactics or ways to self-promote. And I think for those who have a difficult time self-promoting, and I'm one of them, I mean, I don't want to stand up on the mountaintop and say, hey, I'm awesome, I'm this, right? Come over here.
Yep.
It's like that Sports Illustrated curse. You've heard of that?
Yep.
Okay, you're on the cover. You've heard of everything, damn it.
I've been around. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people.
You're on the cover of the Sports Illustrated magazine, and people say, well, that's a curse, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you're at the top of your game. That's why you're on the cover of the Sports Illustrated magazine. You kind of only have one place to go is down.
Yep.
You brag yourself up to such a huge point. Where do you got to go? So for those that have a difficult time self-promoting, I think surrounding themselves with other people who can promote them is a very important thing.
Yes. And interestingly enough, there's also the same thing happens with the EA curse. Back in the day with video games when EA was putting out their, the NHL and the NBA.
Right.
Every single time that person was on the cover, they had a crap year the next year.
Yeah, because where else can they go?
Yeah, exactly.
They can maintain or they can go down, right? So if you're going to promote yourself as if you're the Sports Illustrated cover, it's kind of a recipe for failure.
Yeah.
From my perspective, and I mean, there is an art form for people to be able to self-promote, and I think a big part of that comes into self-worth, where you're not actually bragging. You're just making honest statements. And I think the Dutch are really good about that too, right? They can say some very blunt, honest things. Yeah. How does this dress make me look? Well, it makes you look fat. Okay, thanks. I'll put something else on, right? And it's, okay, well, they're not dancing around it. They're very blunt, very pragmatic to the point. Well, I'm kind of the best.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at me in the industry and there's so-and-so here and so-and-so there, but what I do, I'm the best, right? And they can put it out in a certain way. North America, our culture, it doesn't jive with that sort of just brutal honesty.
Now that would be a podcast and a half in terms of why the Western world has gotten to a point that we can't be honest with each other.
You dance around issues and have little platitudes and niceties and
it's all learned behavior, right? And, passive aggressiveness drives me absolutely nuts. But to your point, in terms of the collective and the community and the capacity for growth, I think that's the key. Is that's what makes the community great. Everybody in it wants to be better. It doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter who or what you've done in your life. Every single person that's a part of it wants to be better.
So what I'm going to do here is lean into my first statement, which is surround yourself with other people who can help promote for you by showing through their actions what they've done well. Like, it's all great if they want to post it up on social media and post the next thing and have other people around. I think the real value comes from them actually implementing the advice and the tips and tricks and different things that they see, implementing that in their own life. And other people will be like, hey, you used to be down here, now you're over here. What are you doing, right?
Yep.
That's where I see the value. Not so much in posting and reposting, which is fantastic.
Yep.
But in actually taking those next steps and implementing the things. So I'm going to put the challenge out. People who listen to this podcast, who find value, please share that with others. A lot of people that listen to this podcast have listened to the collective because I've mentioned it in the past. Share what you see, engage with others on the collective, through here, throughout each other, and share that, essentially. Share it through your actions. By all means, show us what it means to you. I'd put that ask out if they've made it this far into this podcast
100%.
and made it to the end. We will know because you'll see people doing that.
Well, I think what you're asking for is for people to be the community that they want.
Yeah.
Just be the community. And it's very simple, but not easy. And it comes down to daily actions. How are you going to present yourself? How are you going to engage your best self? As it says on the mug. Do your best.
Do your best. Nothing in my life I've ever gotten has ever come easy. Do your best.
That's it.
That was the mug you gave me.
Yep.
Chance, thank you so much for being on the Silvercore Podcast.
My pleasure, brother.
Really appreciate getting to meet you in person, and I'm looking forward to the next time we record.
Maybe. We'll see if I ever make it back to Vancouver.
I'll come up to your place. I'll bring the kid on the road.
That'll be awesome.
Right.